Well, hello. Thank you for joining us again, the FireSprint Fire Hour. I'm Gene Hamsey, and this is James.
Hi.
Hamsey. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate having you here. We're excited to see what questions you guys have for today. We do have some questions that have been asked, kind of leading up to today. So we appreciate those comments. Even if you're watching this after the fact, if you comment down below any questions that you have, we'd love to answer them for you. We're very open, very transparent about our shop. If this is the first Fire Hour that you're catching, a little bit of a backstory. We started in our parents' basement in 2007 with almost nothing, built up, got a couple of loans, and now in 2021 here, we're a $5 million trade-only sign printer, FireSprint.com. You can check us out there. We have about 30 employees. And so, no, we have exactly 30 employees. And we're growing. We are about to buy a building. We're going to take you along with that journey on it with us. And yeah, so that's where we are. I think today, what we've prepared for you is we did a quick shop tour. James and I actually came in on the weekend. It was early Saturday morning, and there was nothing running. So it allowed us, because we're a trade printer, one of the tough things about promoting what we do is we can't show any of the artwork. And so, because we don't own any of it, all the artwork that we are provided is given to us by our customers. And so we flipped everything over and hid everything, and we've kind of set up this quick little shop tour that we'd like to kind of show you here in just a second, whenever Bridget is ready. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. I hope it sparks some questions and some ideas for you guys. So, ready? Here it is.
Hey guys, I wanted to take you on a quick tour of our shop here at FireSprint. This is our current facility, and then as you guys know, we are getting ready to buy a new building. And so as we develop that, you'll see kind of the difference between the two. And so this is why we're so excited to move, just because we are patched up. We've kind of patched things together to get it to where we need it to be. But so this, starting off here, this is our digital roll department. The Canon Osei Colorado 1650. We love the quality that we get off of that. So UV printer, it's pretty fast. Doesn't roll in about an hour or so. And then we do have two Graphtec plotters for kiss cut and die cut stickers. Just nice having that operational redundancy. The Fatova actually is really good for high runs of rectangles and squares. It can really knock that out. Plus, if we're also screen printing stickers, then we can take full rolls and put it on there and get it prepped for screen printing. So as we kind of move this way, we have the laminator for all of our stickers, since we laminate most of them. And then we have the heat seal packager, which allows us to kind of get a nice clean presentation for stickers. And so we'll stack those up, run them through this, and put a nice plastic seal around them. Moving into the start of our digital rigid department, this is our Vanguard flatbed. We primarily print corrugated plastic on this. We've been running this printer for about 10 months or so now. It does a really good job with Coroplast. And then we have kind of inventory stacked up in preparation for this printer here, and then we'll walk out this way. Then converted to our digital storage department with full pallets of material, just kind of in preparations, making sure that we stay on top of supply chain issues and stuff like that, making sure that we've always got that material rolling. Since we only produce about 30 substrates, it's really important that we keep those in stock and keep them ready. You never know when that big job is going to come, and so we've got to be prepared for that. Back here is our flagship printer for digital rigid. This is our Durst P10250. We print just about everything else, plus overrun corrugated plastic. We really try to stick materials to certain printers just so that we have that same color consistency. But if we do have a big job that needs to be produced and we're over capacity on the Vanguard, then we will bring it up here and we'll run it on the Durst. But otherwise we print our PVC, our styrene foam boards, and any other substrate we produce on this, even high run roll to roll as well. That's cool to see. This is, so everything that we print, of course you got to cut it, you got to finish it. And so this is our flagship cutter. This is a 10 foot by 10 foot bed. We added this in 2020 just to help with capacity issues and stuff. And then this is actually it's a cool flatbed. It doesn't route, but it does have the oscillating tool and the cutting tools. And so we can cut just about every material except for like ACM and then intricate 6mm PVC. So this cutter we've actually been running since 2015. This is our first digital cutter that we had an old one before that we kind of bought just to test it out. But this is our first true production cutter that we've had here. So this is a 4 foot by 8 foot bed. It's still a Zoom. We absolutely love both these cutters. It still runs solid, even being 6 years old now. And so it's a great machine. This does have the router, and so if we are producing intricate 6mm PVC or ACM, we can cut that out, or even aluminums and stuff. But let me take you back here to our screen department. We do have 3 screen print lines. These 2 printers are actually the same. They're 30 by 40 M&R presses, and they actually run up to 36 inch by 24 inch material. And so we run these primarily for about 6 to 8 hours a day on average, both machines. And then when we do hit our peak seasons, we go up to 12 to 15 hours per day for these 2 machines. The larger press here can do up to 48 inch by 36 inch, but it doesn't run quite as often because it's more designed for high run jobs and stuff. This is all screen film prep. We have a gray water booth, black water booth. This is where we burn screens. This is where we clean screens and reclaim them. And then we have the exposure unit and kind of screen storage and stuff back there, which we can go into more detail on that later. Way more inventory back here. Really stocked up on stands and corrugated plastic, and so you can see it's a lot of coroplast.
Actually, it's no coroplast
Oh
whatsoever.
yeah, you're right. It's all, yeah, not coroplast. Corrugated plastic. Sorry, Don. This is our shipping department. So we actually ship about 95% of what we produce. And so about 3, 4 o'clock every day, this turns into kind of a chaotic zone where they're trying to just get everything out for the day. We have 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Pickups with UPS and FedEx. And so we try to push them back as late as we can in the day so that we can get everything out for you guys. And then I did forget one really critical part, the FireSprint. I'll walk back here. This is what we call the fire pit. And so every single day at 10 o'clock, we shut down for about 30 minutes, or actually closer to an hour. And the first 30 minutes is spent shining, sorting, or fluorescing, shine, sort, sustain, and standardize. Sorry, I did those in the wrong order, but we get everybody in the facility, so it's about 20 to 25 people every single day. We shut down, we focus on the company rather than work in the company, and that just kind of gets us reset and back to normal. And then we do a half-hour meeting where we talk about what we're grateful for and just kind of what projects we're working on and stuff like that, and then we go over all the numbers. So we're very open with our people to make sure that everybody kind of knows how the company's standing at any point in time. So thanks for joining us.
All right, well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that shop tour there. If you guys have questions about what you saw, ask us anything. We'd love to get into it. But kind of going forward here, James, is there something that we have been asked so far?
Yeah, so we had a few questions come in, just like on YouTube and stuff and Facebook from the previous live stream that we did. And so thank you for doing that. And I encourage you to do that just so it kind of gives us something to gear these shows towards so that they're value added. The big thing for these is they're not really a sales tool for FireSprint. They're more just to talk about businesses and stuff, or our business, and to help other people grow. And so we want to kind of keep it that way the most that we can. So, but one of the good questions that we got, and these 3 questions are very much towards, we could probably do a whole show about them specifically, but I just wanted to kind of touch on them for a little bit. One of the good questions that we got was, what have been some really costly business mistakes that we've had in the past that we've had to kind of work through?
Anything that you want to answer on that before we get started? Before I get started?
Check, double check, triple check, quadruple check.
So, I mean, obviously every day there's probably somebody that comes to us and says, we missed the print settings on this job, or we pre-flighted this wrong, and there's $400 of the material that gets thrown away. You hope it's not $400 a day, but at our scale, it does end up starting to kind of hit that. And so those are definitely costly business mistakes. I don't think that's what you guys are asking about, though. Those are pretty obvious. I think a lot of I don't have mistakes, I think, that come right up at the top of my head, because I mean, there are a few, but I hate to refer to them as mistakes, because you generally, you learn from them, right? And so, for example, we bought a printer. Our first digital printer was a Jetrix KX7. And I will stand by, that was a very good, it still is a very good piece of hardware. in terms of operation, in terms of dot placement, a very solid machine. But I think the mistake that was made was we bought one of the first ones to ever be placed in the United States. And so they're a Korean company. And, the support was just kind of lacking. It wasn't tried and true. It wasn't tested here in the US. And so they were pretty common, and they still are pretty common, I think, in the European market. But European customers and American customers are kind of demanding a little bit different things. As they explained it to me, tends to be in Europe that print quality trumps speed. And here in the United States, print quality is a very close second to speed for a lot of us, especially wholesale printers. And so we want really, really good print quality, but we want to be able to maintain that consistent speed. And we had kind of a challenge getting that machine to do that. And every machine we've bought, we've had those kinds of issues with, I think. But that machine being the first one in the country, there wasn't a lot of people to talk about it with. There wasn't, there weren't really local technicians that knew or had a deep knowledge of the machine either. So that was tricky, especially for our first purchase. So I would say the thing that we learned, so our response to that was to go out and find the absolute best digital printer we could. Which one was rock solid workhorse? What was the best possible printer we could buy after that in terms of a digital printer? And that led us to what? To our
P10
yeah
250.
To our Durst P10 250, which is just it's a rock solid machine. So at the end of the day, had we bought maybe an HP or something that was quite a bit more supported, I'm not sure we would have been connected with Durst so fast. But because we had kind of that challenge with that printer, and again, it was a solid piece of hardware. It just there wasn't that much information out there about it. That really taught us to find a company that really supports what they do. And that's, for us, that was Durst. There's a lot of great print manufacturers. If you guys want to go into that, we can go into that. And so that made a big difference. But I think it tends to be that the mistakes that we make, we've learned from them all. So you don't dwell on them that much, because you look back on it, it's like, well, if we didn't make that mistake, what mistake would we have made, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we know where we are. We know we've succeeded up to this point. So don't dwell on them, I would say.
One of the things, and you might be able to touch on this more, but one of the things that we really noticed when we went from the Jetrix to the Durst was, or the KX7 to the P10, was that we, with the KX7, we were able to produce like 10, 12 boards an hour efficiently. And that was really kind of hard to, you hit a max like revenue per hour that you can hit with that machine, versus the P10, we were able to do, on average, I think we're able to do between 30 and 45, depending on kind of what we're running. And so just the amount of revenue that you can produce through a bigger machine, something that's a little bit higher, like, I guess, more industrial class. Mm-hmm. And, you still have that monthly payment versus, and the monthly payment versus, the Durst versus the KX7 is, it's a significant difference, but you're able to recoup that cost, and you're able to profit a little more, quite a bit more off of the P10. So making that bigger investment, it was scary, when we did it. I remember we had endless conversations about, should we actually do this, or
it was almost $500,000, and the KX7 was about 200,000.
Yeah.
And so that, $500,000 for us at the time, our revenue was 2018 revenue was 3.1 million, something like that.
Yeah.
3.2 million. And so to spend $500,000 on a printer was, it's still a huge number today, even at 5 million, but at the time it was really scary. So
what's really cool is if you go, for $200,000, you can buy a pretty awesome flatbed printer, that will, handle just about any, sign shop that's a few $1 million or less, their work. And it's just amazing that the technology difference versus what it is today versus what it was back in 2014 when we bought that. And so I would say that the industry's definitely come a long ways for that, which is...
It has, yeah. Some of we have a Vanguard flatbed. It was very similar. It is probably very similar in cost to that KX7, but it would run circles around it in terms of speed and performance. And then, of course, it's just really, really well supported. They're made in Atlanta. So it's not challenging to get a technician out here. Really great machine. So to touch, I do want to kind of get back. You were talking about the capacity difference between the, you know, the 40 board an hour machine versus a 10 board an hour machine or something like that. What's interesting is when you go to do your math on making an investment in higher capacity, it's real easy to say, you know, and when the accountant looks at it, he's like, well, this machine prints 10 boards an hour and this machine prints 40 boards an hour. But it doesn't actually work out that way. What happens is your 10 board machine is constantly totally full, so you're turning away work. And when those peaks come and you need that additional capacity, the higher capacity machine, you actually end up getting more throughput on it. It's not a 4-to-1 ratio. It's like exponential. The more capacity you have, the bigger jobs that you can take. When you're only running 10 boards an hour, you're turning away. Well, for us anyway, being a trade printer, we were turning away tons and tons of work. And so we saw, you know, well, we've almost quadrupled our digital sales. So, you know, in 5 million, a significant portion is screen sales, but we've quadrupled our digital sales since we bought the Durst. And so that's due to that additional capacity, I think, more than anything. And then so we beat that subject for a long time.
Yeah. Are there any other costly business mistakes that you think? You know, one thing that was really cool when we were looking at buying our first Zune. So we showed you the 4x8 Zune in the video.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Hey, James. Hey, Evan. We'll get to your question, Evan. But so one of the biggest mistakes that we had, not the biggest mistakes, but that 4x8 bed that we bought in 2015, the Zune. I remember when, you know, I went to ISA, I think it was early 2015 in Orlando, it was, and I took one of our guys with me, and we were walking through the show, and I remember walking by the ESCO booth and walking by the Zune booth and just thinking to myself, like, man, I would really love to have one of those. That's, you know, just a really awesome piece of equipment and stuff, but, you know, that $120,000, $140,000 sticker is just like, you're trying to wrap your head around it. How are you going to do that? And I remember coming back and talking with Gene and Mark, and the three of us kind of got together and stuff. And it took us, I think it was from April till like late June, but we started thinking about it. It's like, well, how are we cutting our material out now and stuff? And what's our bottleneck with cutting material, and just how efficient that Zune made us, you know, with running stuff and not getting that in sooner, which, you know, it's always hard. You always can look back, you know, with 2020 crystal ball, and say that, yeah, we should have bought that sooner. But
yeah, that's always a big, we should have bought that sooner. We say that a lot. That's probably one of the bigger mistakes.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But we run equipment though. That's part of our day-to-day operation. I mean, we make money running equipment. There isn't an install, there isn't design work, there's nothing else. So if we don't have capacity on the equipment, we're not making any money. As a trade printer, that's kind of how it is. Now, most of you guys watching this, it's not the case. You know, there's other ways for you to generate revenue. But I noticed here, Evan's got this question: what was your biggest bottleneck besides the actual printer? So that's a great question. As soon as you increase capacity on the printer, then your cutters need to increase capacity. So we're really at the point now where the cool thing about the printers is once you kind of dial in your profiles, you figure we're going to run 40 boards an hour of this material, and 50 boards an hour of this material, and 30 boards an hour of that material. And it's pretty easy to just calculate how long your print time is going to be, how much capacity of print time you can get in a day. That actually isn't really the bottleneck. The bottleneck is finishing. So cutting out 24x18s or 24x36 yard signs at a Coro, it's a knife cut. It's one plunge and cuts really fast. If you guys haven't seen that, you should look up Zune cutters, or we can do some videos on here. But crazy fast, and that'll keep up with the printer. But then we do a ton of these auction paddles and things like that, and those can you know, really start taking a long time to cut. So it's kind of been our experience to make sure that you have cutting capacity even greater than your printing capacity. And so that's what we have the pair of Zunes, which you saw in the video. But the cutting capacity is definitely the bottleneck. And then depending on where you go from there, it's real easy to get to unloading of the cutters as being the bottleneck. You're cutting out all these little intricate shapes. Well, they need to be stacked nicely, packaged up and boxed. And so you need to have people available. So another big challenge that we face is, you know, for the first half of the morning, we might be doing 24 by 18 yard signs just all morning long, right? Well, that's one person on the Zune cutting. They can keep up with it, stack them up, put them on the cart, print the labels, things like that. But then, you know, maybe for a couple of hours during the day, you're cutting out a bunch of intricate shapes. Well, you really could benefit from having a couple of people, right?
Yep.
But, you know, you didn't need 2 people in the morning. So what are we doing? So we're moving people around, and absolutely those bottlenecks.
Or running a job, right? You know, there's been jobs in our system where, you know, they can take up to 18, 20 minutes per board to cut. And,
yeah, and they print in 1 minute.
Yep.
Minute and a half.
And so that's definitely a challenge. And then we also, I mean, we have a lot of bottlenecks too that we'll get, like on the pre-press side. You get, you know, a job of, you know, say for auction paddles where you've got, you know, 500 numbers that you need to go through, and you know, we need to check the files or something, and that could take a while to process. And you know, if there's a high res, you know, logo in there that slows everything down, that can, I mean, you can, our bottleneck is pretty fluid. It really does.
It does move around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, another good question: do you schedule resources manually or some of your FileMaker systems? So how do we schedule our?
Oh my God, I could go into a boring, like, unless you're like really in this, like I could go into this boring like 4-hour journey of what our FileMaker system does and things like that. So I developed our FileMaker system. It was just one of those things that it kind of got into it, and it's like, you know, somebody needs to build this. So I just taught myself how to do it. And so we've been running it for a few years now. We call it Lumen internally. But the answer is both in terms of the question. What was the actual question? Is how do we schedule resources, right? So the answer is both. So what we actually do is we have on our website, we have everything tagged as a SKU or an item, right? So if you want a 24 by 18 yard sign that's 2-color, 2-sided, screen printed, that's one item. But if it's digitally printed, it's another item. If you add grommets to it or something like that, it becomes another item. And so the website kind of handles all that, and it condenses most of our products down to like a 5 or 6 digit SKU, right? A stock, a code, an item number, right? Mm-hmm. Is this too boring to go over right now?
No.
I go through it a little bit. And that, to each item, we tag or we tie a route to that item. So every item, and that's really one of the big defining factors of what, you know, differentiates why we call one thing an item and another thing a separate item, is because they're going to go through a different route in our factory or through the shop floor. And so those are predetermined, and the equipment, there's default routes for things which can be edited, or kind of a schedule is another way to think about it. The default piece of equipment is all set up. So for example, we have the router on our smaller 2500 Zune. So if it's ACM or PVC or something like that, we automatically default it to the 2500 Zune. If it's Coro, we automatically default it to 3200 Zune. And so these jobs come into our system, and they are kind of automatically assigned equipment right on the day. And so we're not scheduling the day out per se in Lumen. We're just kind of assigning the pieces of equipment that job is going to need to run through. And then from there, we have a scheduling manager. His name is Michael, and he kind of keeps an eye. He does a great job. He's been with us for a long time. And he kind of keeps an eye on everything, and he'll move stuff around as kind of it needs to be moved around. So I hope that answers your question. If you want more detail, ask away. And my email address, I'll give it to you right now. My email is Gene, Gene, at FireSprint.com. James is James at FireSprint.com. So feel free to email us directly with questions. We'll either answer them in the email or we can set something up. I'll even, if you want to set up a time to do like a video conference or something to go over this, if it's helpful to you, I'd be happy to do that. I could show you around our system a little bit too.
The other question that we had was managing employees. How do we, I guess, what have our challenges been? That's obviously a long question that we could take a whole show for, but I'm going to touch on that.
So that's pretty broad. I'd like, if you guys have something more specific that you want to ask about managing employees, we can get into it. I would tell you, I think we've been doing strategic planning meetings. We mentioned that we were going to start strategic planning at the beginning of the last show, and kind of going through things. And I think, you know, we've been really lucky. We found a lot of really great people that really mesh well with us. But I think one of the most important things is just being appreciative of the people you have, thanking them every day and meaning it, understanding that they have a choice to be somewhere else. And I think you kind of set this baseline of gratitude and appreciation that, hey, you know, you're not here because I pay you. You're here because you choose to come here to get paid here. And you know, they especially right now, you know, we don't have turnover right now. They could go, our people could go and get stuff, great jobs other places. I hope they're not watching. No, they know that though. They know they can go get awesome jobs other places, but I think they stick around. And my guess is that you know, I can't read their minds, but my guess is that because we do appreciate, I mean, we can't run without them, and we admit that. So I think you start with that foundation, and then from there it is, you know, I'd love for Brian to touch on this. He probably won't come get on camera, operations manager, but it's about setting expectations and you know, setting your standard operating procedures and really defining the roles that they're in, and then recognizing that, you know, if you're an owner and you're asking how do you manage employees, remember you're an owner. Remember that. Remember that you know, nobody's gonna like fall in love with your business like you are, and appreciate and respect them for who they are and what they bring to the table.
Another question on here. Would you love to see a pay by check or net terms option on your website? We do actually have a way to make that work now. I know it's kind of been
we're working on it.
Something that we've been trying to get, but we got a way to do that.
That's a priority of ours. We're working on it.
Yeah. And there's more to come on that. And then last question that I had was, what's been kind of the mindset? And again, this is another pretty broad question, but what's been the mindset that's been required to get to where we are?
So, you know what I'm going to talk about? What I think, well, do you have something that you think has been important, or do you want me to go?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you're fine. I think, so we've done more than just get to 5 million. We've stayed together as partners. There's Mark, who you haven't met on this live stream, but a lot of you guys, if you know us well enough, you might hear from him or you'd see him. And he, you know, the three of us together have stayed partners for this long, and so we've stuck it out and we've stuck it together. And I think that's probably one of our greatest accomplishments, not hitting the 5 million, but staying. I mean, most businesses don't maintain partnerships through this much growth, through this much change for this long. We're, you know, any statistics you look up, we beat them all. And I think we don't ever like shut the door on each other, right? It's never been, we've never had a vote. We've never had like a real vote where it's like we can't come to terms on something. And you know, maybe that's naive of me to say, but we've always hashed it out to a point where we're like, okay, now we're all on the same page. And I think that has really helped us maintain our partnership. And through that, that's kind of part of the foundation of how we can continue to grow. So
we've never actually had a fight.
Never. Not one. No, we fight all the freaking time. But at the end of the day, we fight to try and, you know, for the betterment of the company, for the betterment of our group. And so I think that makes a huge difference. Again, that's a mindset to get to 5 million. I mean, just the other thing we say a lot is, and you know, a good friend of mine, Marty, he always said, if you're not growing, you're shrinking, right? And so we've always thought, like, how do we grow? Never had the inclination to stay at the size we're at. You know, that scares us probably more than anything. We have a young group here, and so they want to see us grow because they want there to be more in the future.
Yeah. So I think, you know, we've never really like been at a point where the three of us have wanted to plateau, or, you know, and so I think that
not all at the same time anyway. Don't get me wrong, we've had burnout days where it's like I can't.
I mean, of course, everybody does, but you know, it's and having that too, I think kind of helps a lot of our people, our team, to, you know, sticking around because they want to be a part of it. They want to see where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and we're constantly working on something that's, you know, changing. I mean, our site is like constantly developing. I feel like it's never going to be done. There's a billion things that we want to do to our site, and you know, then to our production. You know, we want to expand production times, or expand, you know, what we can do, what we can produce. We want to expand how long we work. We want to increase shifts and stuff. But getting that sales to production balance kind of worked out. That's always been a challenge. It's like sales will hit production capacity, and then production will, you know, hit sales capacity. And so it's kind of funny how it goes back and forth. But no, you know, I'm trying to get the ball shoved back over to production for sales. So, but you know, it's tough to. That's tough to balance, but you know, we're at a common goal. You know, right now we're in the process of buying a building. We, you know, are trying to decrease production times. We've added a night shift this year. You know, there's a lot of things that we've done to kind of change and get things rolling. And you know, we hired.
It's fun.
Yeah. We hired a new operations manager. We hired a new salesperson. You know,
we've got some great. I'm so excited. We have like just some awesome people. Hope we can kind of maybe get on here every once in a while and share their insight. But
so we're at we promised 30 minutes, and
on the FireHour, 30 minutes long.
So we're at 32 right now, and those of you that have stuck around, we really appreciate it. We do have a coupon code for you to use on a future order, FireHour 15, so FireHour 15. So use that for $15 off your next order. But yeah, so for sticking around and watching it, putting up with us and listening to our commentary.
Keep the questions coming. You can ask as deep of a question as you like. The worst case scenario, we have to generalize a little bit to answer it. But we would love to answer deeper questions. And let us know your feedback on seeing the shop tour and things like that. We'd love to just know what you guys thought.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was number 2.
So we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.